The following program is brought to you by Naleo TV, the People's Platform.
Keeping our island community informed and secure. Be alert, be aware, and care. Together we can have a safe Hawaii.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Civil Defense's Personal Preparedness Podcast. So last episode, we kind of went over some of our general hazards and some general information that you can get and steps that you can take to keep your family safe. So we went over that evacuation kit, that emergency kit. And again, you can find that on our website, and we also have some paper copies available that we give out to communities. You can stop by our office. And today we're going to get a little bit more into the specifics of hazards. So with hurricane season coming up, I have a colleague here today, Barry Periatt. Why don't you go into your background and some of that a little bit more?
Hi, I'm Barry Periatt. I'm an administrative officer with Civil Defense, and I've been with Civil Defense for 16 years. So I've seen Hurricane Azelle in 2014 and Hurricane Lane in 2018.
So for some of our viewers that may not know when hurricane season starts and when it runs through, why don't we walk them through a little bit about hurricane season, some of the hazards, and really overall, what is a hurricane? Because, you know, some people may get that confused with other types of storms.
Mm-hmm. Well, the hurricane season can be confusing because the Atlantic has a different season and the Eastern Pacific has a different season. Here in the Central Pacific, our season runs from 1 June through 30 November. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what do we mean when we say hurricane season? That's when the conditions are most right for hurricanes to occur and develop. It doesn't happen or have to happen during the hurricane season. Hurricane can happen at any time. And what we say with a hurricane, it's actually a part of a family of storms known as tropical cyclones.
Right.
So you hear mention of typhoon or tropical depression, tropical storm, hurricane. They're all the same thing. It's a tropical cyclone. And the difference is a tropical depression, tropical storm, and a hurricane have different wind factors with them. So a hurricane being the most powerful storm, so from 75 miles per hour and up, you get a hurricane. And there's 5 categories of hurricanes. Azelle was a Category 1 when it reached us. It hit us as a tropical storm or made landfall as a tropical storm. And Lane, when it came through, it sat off the coast of Kona.
Right.
It was a Category 4 as it approached us, but the winds never made landfall on the island. So varying in sizes, obviously if it's 4 or 5, it's a very dangerous storm. Normally a 1 or a 2 is what we would expect to impact us here.
Right. So you mentioned some of those wind speeds being pretty hazardous. Are there any other kind of conditions that these hurricanes bring that are dangerous?
Yeah, the hurricanes actually have 3 threats. The first one, the one that's going to arrive with us first, is the surge, the storm surge, high surf.
Right.
And we don't have so much of an issue here because we have very steep water along the coast. However, in Hilo, where we have the shallower water, it can build up and we can get surge in and additional waves coming in. And that's generally the most damaging aspect of the storm. Then you have the high winds, which they can be very damaging as well.
Right.
They bring down the trees, the telephone lines, and that. But the most hazard, or the hazard that claims the most lives in these storms, is the heavy rains and the flooding that results from that.
Right. So with that, going into some of the associated hazards, why don't we go into what we do when we notice maybe a hurricane has formed in the Central Pacific? We're monitoring it. What does our operation look like for those at home that are watching?
Mm-hmm. That's a key word, the Central Pacific. Mm-hmm. When the National Weather Service or the Central Pacific Hurricane Center on May 15th actually is going to put out their forecast for this coming season. And what they're forecasting is the Central Pacific.
Right.
A lot of our storms form in the Eastern Pacific. They're not counted till they cross the longitude 140, which is the eastern boundary for the Central Pacific Basin. Once it crosses there, I lost my train of thought. What were we going with?
what do we do when we notice that it's crossed that Central Pacific Basin? What does our operation look like when we see a hurricane coming?
We just monitor it when it's in the Eastern Pacific, but once it nears the 140, the National Weather Service will have a statewide conference call and briefing for all the emergency management personnel so that they can give us an update whether they think the storm is going to come close enough to impact us, whether it might, going to come close enough to really do some damage, or whether we just need to watch it. It's really not a threat to us. At that point, we start our messaging. We're responsible for public information and warning. Now, we don't create the alerts and warnings. That's the responsibility for the Central Pacific Hurricane Center, which is part of the National Weather Service. However, we do put out civil defense messaging to tell you what you need to be on the lookout for, what preparations you may need to do, and just a general idea of how soon the storm can arrive.
Right, and I think that's important to note, too, because we're keyed in with the National Weather Service, with our partners. They're the authoritative body behind, this messaging, and we're kind of disseminating out to the public, our community here in Hawaii County. So with that, it's very important that, residents stay tuned in to civil defense alerts, signing up for Everbridge, following our social media, and also being sure that the messaging that you find, maybe look for authoritative messages, National Weather Service, the Weather Center. Not everything you see on social media could be credible. So one thing I think that I see often from my perspective, people getting confused with, is the cone of error, that track line that people may see on, the news or social media, and people think, oh no, we're in a direct path. Can you clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, they call it the cone of uncertainty now, but it was originally called the cone of error. And the reason for the cone of error is because they look at the previous 5 years of their forecasts, and they look at how accurate those forecasts were. And so the cone is developed off of 66%, or 2/3 of the time, the storm is actually within that cone. The other 1/3 of the time, it's outside of the cone. So even if the cone isn't on top of our island or approaching our island, we could still be at risk. That's why they call it the cone of error or uncertainty. And that black line in the center track, that is the forecasted direction of the storm. That doesn't mean the storm is going to go there. And that's why, again, the cone of uncertainty. And it can vary. And each year it is recomputed. Although ours hasn't been done since 2014 because we really haven't had any storms approach us.
And with that, with hurricane season coming up, some of the conditions that we've been seeing already, we're in more of a neutral period. We both know that we haven't got the forecast yet. As you said, May 15th, we can look forward to getting that forecast. But what are the conditions kind of showing now? What can we maybe look out for?
Well, right now we're in neutral conditions, as you said, and that generally means that it's going to be a very quiet season for us. Neutral to La Nina, we don't have... historically, we don't have a lot of storms develop. It's during the El Nino when we get a lot of storms. But that doesn't always hold true. It doesn't mean we can't get a lot of storms this year.
And I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention, even if there's not a lot that develop, or if there is a lot that develop, it only takes one to be a significant storm. And that's why I think, that message of preparedness, setting those initial conditions, making sure residents know what to do beforehand, taking those preparations beforehand is very important. Why don't we go into some preparations they can take right now while it's still early in May before that season starts?
Okay. What you really want to do is make sure you've got your emergency kit together. Now's the time to prepare. You don't want to be the person trying to go to Costco 2 days before the impact, and there's no rice, there's no toilet paper, everything's gone. No
in line
water.
for gas.
In line for gas. So if you do those preparations now, then a lot of things take care of themselves, and all you have to do is decide, okay, if I'm in the path, can I shelter in place? Or do I need to go to a shelter? Do I need to leave? And you can make that decision with a little bit of confidence. If you choose to go to a shelter, understand that you're going to be in with the public. There's very little privacy there. It's not going to be comfortable. And you do need to bring your emergency kit with you, because when you come to an emergency shelter, like we authorize or set up for storms, there are no amenities provided.
Right.
You're given 10 feet of space per person, 10 square feet, boom. And there's water and there's bathrooms. So if you want to eat, entertain yourself, games, read a book, whatever, you need to bring that with you. Medications. If you have prescription medication, bring it with you. Don't forget that. That's why you need to prepare your kit and say, okay, check my kit. Medication, got to get it in there. If you have pets, you can bring them to the shelter. However, they are not going to be in the shelter with you. They're going to be in a separate area, and they do need to be in a pet carrier. If you don't have a pet carrier, bring your pet. We'll figure something out, but your pet is not going to be in the shelter with you. So understand your pet won't be with you, and if you do bring a pet with you, you should bring a pet carrier because for the safety of your pet, and you need to bring food, or if your pet has any medication, you need to bring that as well. So pets are part of the family.
Definitely.
You do need to bring them when you shelter. Don't leave them at home. If it's not safe for you, it's not safe for them.
That's a great point. And again, all this information that we covered, preparedness, some personal actions you can take. Again, we put out these kits, we disseminate to the public, and this information is on our website. Or you can watch our previous episode with Talmadge, our administrator, where we went over each of the individual items and things that you could take to a shelter. So thank you again for tuning in to Civil Defense's Personal Preparedness Podcast. Let's stay safe this hurricane season. Stay alert, stay informed. Sign up for Everbridge notifications via our website, and we'll see you next time.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Fire Prevention Party. I'm Battalion Chief Royd Henderson with the Hawaii Fire Department. I am in charge of the fire prevention branch here. And today, a very special day because we're continuing our discussions on the wildfire and wildland series. We brought in today the very amazing, talented, intellectually just on top of the world, amazing person, Inspector John Requelman. A round of applause, folks. A round of applause. There we go.
Hey.
There we go. Oh,
Thanks.
beautiful,
Thank you
beautiful,
very much.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so Inspector Requelman, for the people that didn't get to watch our last series, can you quickly introduce yourself and then we'll get into our...
My name is John Requelman. I'm a fire inspector for the Hawaii County Fire Department. I've been in the department for approximately 20 years. You did that last time.
I'm going to do it again. That's a long time.
And then I was a firefighter in EMT for approximately 18 years, and I've been in fire prevention for about 3 years.
Exciting.
Yeah,
Exciting.
This is an exciting job.
This is an exciting job. Okay, so can you give us a quick overview of what your responsibilities are in fire prevention related to our wildland stuff? Like, what do you do for us?
Having to do with wildfire stuff, I work with the Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization.
Okay.
I assist them with doing home assessments.
Okay.
And I go to community meetings and to gather information from the community and community members and see how we can help them out.
So can you give everyone kind of like a quick overview in a sense? Because we always just say HWMO for short. That's what they're labeled as. Can you kind of give us a brief overview just of the program? Like what do they do?
Okay.
Yeah.
So HWMO stands for the Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization. They've been around for approximately 20 years. They do wildfire mitigation, planning, they do mapping, they assist communities to become Firewise. Mm-hmm. It's a national program for wildfire mitigation and planning. Also, they do home assessments, and they work with communities to get grants to do work in their communities and stuff.
Yeah, because I remember you talking about one of the meetings, and they were talking about how they had different organizations come in. They kind of got together, and they started to do different mitigation work. So mitigation basically means cutting back your brush.
Yeah.
More or less, right?
Yeah.
So when you hear that word, it's
Yeah.
not that fancy, trust me. yeah. It just means we're cutting bushes. Yeah.
Way to say clean up
Yeah.
your stuff.
Clean up, yeah.
Yeah. So they work on grants too, so where you can bring a chipper or a truck, a trailer, and then they have a wildfire preparedness day,
Right.
which is coming up, where the community people get together, they cut the trees and bushes, and then they either throw it in a chipper or in the trailer and have it hauled away to clear around their homes from things that can catch fire.
So those chipper programs, though, those aren't programs where it's just like they're not doing it at your house.
No,
right? It's more like the surrounding
it's a community.
areas.
It's a community event, so they plan it out and the Firewise program does a lot of.
But we're not
things.
calling them I'm not calling them to cut the trees on my lot.
No, yeah.
Right? I mean, you know what I mean? That's
not
not what it's about,
individually.
right?
Yeah, not
it's more like
individually. So the
areas
way they
surrounding
work,
community.
they bring communities together. It usually starts off with like a couple people just concerned about the brush on their yards and communities, and they reach out to the wildfire management organization and have a little talk, and it starts from two people, and sometimes it goes up to like the whole community, and then they work together to become Firewise.
Right. So Firewise basically means that the community as a whole, they basically agree to say, hey, we're going to do these things to make sure we reduce the risk
Yes.
in our area, right? So I know they do different talks, and I know you have a version of their booklet here, the Ready, Set, Go program, right? So kind of give us a introduction to what that's all about. So
this Ready, Set, Go program is a nationally recognized program from the Firewise USA organization. This one is specifically made for the state of Hawaii. Every state has their own, but it's pretty much some information how to prepare ahead of a wildfire. So prepare your home, get your emergency stuff together, and then stay connected with like alerts and stuff and the radio and TV, just so you and your family and pets can get out of the way safely in case you need to evacuate ahead of a brush fire or a wildfire.
So it's like a lot of just information, because there's a lot of information.
There's a lot of information
There's a
in
lot
here.
of stuff, right? It's not like this is like a quick checklist.
No,
I think there's
not.
a lot of stuff, right?
It starts mitigation. Mitigation is big in this book.
Because the communities that you've worked with so far, are they pretty receptive? So the communities that you have seen that put together Firewise programs, are they pretty receptive to what you guys are doing? Are people welcoming? Are they excited about the opportunity? Or
most people welcome that because of the recent fires. Everybody's it's on everybody's mind right now. So we're getting a lot more feedback and positive reactions to this. Yeah. But there's always a few that don't in every community. It's just it's just how it is.
Uncle
Right?
who doesn't want nobody going near his house.
Yeah. Well, we have to respect that.
I think we have one of them in here.
Yeah, I think he's sitting over there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Not naming names or anything.
Yeah. No, we're not.
No, but I think every community has, right? Every
Yeah.
community has people that are really interested in protecting the community, because we know, right, once it gets to that place of the wildland area kind of encroaching onto the homes where a lot of homes are built, specifically a place like Waikolo or even in Kona, we have some pretty crazy areas, right, where you have dense housing and then you have just crazy
Surrounded
wildland
by-
heat and
yeah.
like you said, the topography, all these things, the way the hills are built, the wind comes coming down like a blowtorch and starts lighting up houses, and at some point, there's only so much that a fire department can do, with the limited manpower and stuff. So, with HWMO, can you kind of walk us through real quick? So you mentioned home assessments earlier,
Yes.
right? Quickly, a home assessment, even if we're there, is not I want to be clear about that, is not an opportunity for us to slap people on the wrist and scold people, but we want to be clear that we're there to assist people in being as safe as possible, right?
Yes.
So can you walk us through really quick from, I know they requested, but can you kind of walk us through what a home assessment is and maybe a few details that people look at, when they're doing the home assessments?
Okay, so usually a home assessment, you would have to reach out to a wildfire management organization on their website, and they can. So it's totally voluntary. So they're asking us to come.
Right.
So we go to the house, and then we start off by checking out what kind of greenery they have around their house, and access to the place. That's what we start off at, and then we go. There's different zones. There's 3 zones that we usually check. It's from 0 to 5 is one zone, and then there's 5 to 30 feet. 0 to 5 feet. Sorry.
Okay, from the
house. Home. Sorry.
Okay, so 0 to 5 feet is like one zone. Okay, cool.
Sorry, there's 3 of them.
No
0 to 5, 5 to 30, and 30 to 100 feet away from the house.
Okay.
So things you would check when you do the 0 to 5 feet is to make sure that there's no brush right against your home and stuff, or anything that can burn. Because there's a myth that people think that large flames cause the homes to catch fire, but it's usually like little embers that land next to your home. Just think about a fire, how it starts. If you go camping, you're not going to start by lighting a match on a big log.
Right.
You're just going to use the small tinder stuff that lights up. So that's what we're looking for. That's what causes a fire and can potentially burn down your home.
So in the 3 zones, basically what you guys are doing is you're kind of looking at potential dangers in each of the 3 zones.
Yes.
And then depending on, everybody's house is different, right? So depending on how it's laid out and how things are going, you can give them basically advice, right?
Advice, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so, those are really basic tips. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it at this point, but you guys come and conduct a home assessment and go from there, right? So after that home assessment, you guys give them kind of a cheat sheet in terms of, hey, these are some things to do.
So the Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, home assessors or home ambassadors, as they like to be called, they do a report and then they email them within a few days of what recommendations they need to do to protect their home.
Take it and go from there.
Yeah, I think it's totally voluntary. It's not
great. It's totally voluntary. HWMO, shout out to you guys.
Thank you very much.
This has been another segment for the Fire Prevention Party. Have a great one, folks. Be safe out there. See you soon.
I am Officer Kaipo Aurello of the Hawaii Police Department, and I'm here to ask for your assistance in locating individuals who you will see in just a moment. Our department depends on you to work with us by acting as our eyes and ears out in the community. If you provide an anonymous tip through Crime Stoppers, you may be eligible for a reward of up to $1,000. Crime Stoppers is a volunteer program run by ordinary citizens like you who want to keep our community safe. Here's how it works. First, get a code. Next, use your code to track your status and then collect your reward. It's that easy. Here are some individuals we need your help in locating. Please call if you know their whereabouts. Be on the lookout for 33-year-old Wesley Kauai, who is wanted on one outstanding warrant with a total bail of $1,000. Kauai is described as having an average build, 6 feet 3 inches tall, 200 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He also has a large Polynesian-type tattoo covering his right leg. Kauai is known to frequent the Waikoloa, Kauai, and Waimea areas. South Kohala officers are asking the public to be on the lookout for 56-year-old William Swayze, who is wanted on one outstanding warrant with a total bail of $20,000. Swayze has an average build, is 6 feet 2 inches tall, weighs around 175 pounds, with blonde hair and brown eyes. Swayze's last known address is in Waikoloa Village, and he is known to frequent the Waikoloa Village and Waimea areas. The Hawaii Police Department requests your assistance in locating 33-year-old Pono Nakoa Catret, who is wanted on one outstanding warrant with a total bail of $1,000.
Carteret is described as having an average build, 5 feet 8 inches tall, 135 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. His last known address is in the Waimea area, and he is known to frequent the Waikoloa Village, Kauai, and Waimea areas. We are looking for 42-year-old Cole Race Joaquin, who is wanted for a $50,000 arrest warrant. Race Joaquin is 5 feet 7 inches tall, 150 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He is known to frequent the Puna, Hamakua, and Ka'u districts. Help us locate 39-year-old Casey Hui Assam, who has 2 outstanding warrants totaling $35,000. Known to frequent the Honoka'a and Waimea areas, Hui Assam is 5 feet 10 inches tall, 190 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Help us locate 28-year-old Johnson Heckers, who is wanted on 3 outstanding warrants totaling $7,100, as well as for questioning in multiple stolen vehicle investigations. He is known to reside in the Ocean View area and is described as 5 feet 7 inches tall, 150 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Please be on the lookout for 44-year-old Ross Piper of Ocean View, who is wanted on 2 outstanding warrants totaling $2,000, as well as for questioning relative to multiple criminal investigations involving auto theft. Piper is described as 5 feet 9 inches tall, 165 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Call us if you know the whereabouts of 39-year-old Kendrick Sanders, who is wanted for questioning for multiple criminal investigations involving violating a temporary restraining order. He is described as being 5 feet 11 inches tall, 180 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Sanders is known to frequent the Ocean View and South Kona areas.
As always, we want to thank you for your assistance in helping us to locate these individuals. Tipsters who prefer to remain anonymous may call the island-wide Crime Stoppers number at 808-961-8300 and may be eligible for a reward of up to $1,000. Crime Stoppers does not record calls or use caller ID. Hawaii Island's Most Wanted is a project of Crime Stoppers Hilo Inc., which is a partnership of the business community, the media, and the police. It was inspired by the national TV show America's Most Wanted. I am Officer Kaipo Aurello of the Hawaii Police Department. Mahalo for watching.